Hello and welcome to another Wednesday webinar here at Grand Canyon University. I'm Corey Araza, your host from Canyon Professional Development. And folks, you are in for a treat. We have the topic today on the future of AI in education with a very special guest, Rachna Mathur, who is a business owner of the STEMology.Club. In addition to that, she is currently working on a PhD in STEM education. So she is got the cutting edge research in AI. Not to mention, she has a program called Books and Bots that, if you're lucky, she'll bring it to your school. Don't forget, in our show notes today, we'll have everything there so you don't have to take furious notes, but at the same time, enjoy this conversation. So, without further ado, Rachna, it's beautiful to have you with us today. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and I can't wait to hear more about AI.
Thank you, Corey, and thank you so much to Canyon PD and GCU for inviting me here today and for that lovely introduction. I really appreciate it. Like you mentioned, Corey, I'm the founder and CEO of STEMology.Club, which I started in 2019, and I'm also a doctoral candidate at ASU in their EDD program. In my previous avatars, I've also worked at Intel as in computer engineering, which is where my background is. Now I'm studying education. And some of the projects that I thought I would mention, since I wear many hats, and as an engineer, a teacher, mom, artist, many, many hats, but I'll mention some of the projects that I'm currently working on. One of them is the Arizona STEM Acceleration Project, which I know you're going to talk a little bit more about later as well, but where we have STEM fellows from all over Arizona participating in it. And Books and Bots, which you just mentioned, where I get, that's one of my programs where I teach AI, robotics, and computational thinking. And then some of the other things that I do is I work at Con World School and at ASU, and it's a partnership between the two, ASU and Khan Academy. And then my favorite one is looking at AI in education at ASU. There is a Learning Futures Collaborative where we are looking at, exactly as you said, cutting edge research that explores what does it mean when we talk about AI in education, and we'll talk more about that in a second.
Oh, wow. What a resume. What a CV, as they say. Rachna, just the fact that we're talking about the Arizona STEM Acceleration Project really gets me excited because up here at Canyon Professional Development, we are also able to offer professional development in STEM to that 450 STEM fellows. It's just so exciting for the state of Arizona, and I really can't wait to see our STEM programs in Arizona move into the future. I love that you're a part of futures thinking at ASU and that cutting edge research. I can't wait to hear more about AI in education because I think it's something that's a little intimidating for some of our teachers and just some of our public in general. It's AI is a little daunting. So set the stage for us, if you will, for our talk today.
Very true. Sometimes it can sound overwhelming. So let's start with the father of AI, as he is called, John McCarthy, and actually several of his colleagues who are listed below. In about 1955, 1956, these American computer scientists, in one of their research papers, coined this term, artificial intelligence, and how he describes it. And I really like this definition because it felt like it was approachable. He says, for the present purpose, the artificial intelligence problem is taken to be that of making a machine behave in ways that would be called intelligent if a human were so behaving. So simply put, it's us as humans, trying to have this machines and robots think like and act like humans at a core level. So
I love how you say intelligent, right? If a human were so behaving. So that
that
means
was
that
his
maybe we're
definition.
not always behaving intelligently. That's right. That's John McCarthy. That's not Rachna Mathur. Okay, I got you. But I think it's an interesting way to intro this, considering a machine having to duplicate something that a human does has got to be extremely challenging because we don't follow the rules, do we?
Well said. Very, very well said. And I think and this is where this leads in really well, like as we explore this topic and our relationship with AI, there are three areas that I wanted to talk about today. And one is to understand, what do our lives and what does AI look like in our lives today? So what AI do we see in our daily lives? And what might it look like in our schools? And it might already be there. It might be something that our schools are using. The next thing I want to talk about was creativity in AI. And, can AI be creative? We're actually going to talk about how AI itself can be creative and what that means. And that's an example of it being artificially intelligent. And so, what does that mean for our classroom and our class assignments when we start using AI in addition to our own creativity, using AI's creativity? What does that mean? And then finally, I
Wow.
want to really talk about, yeah, I really want to talk about a very important topic that you will see scattered throughout if you ever kind of look up AI or listen to some kind of information that they will always talk about bias, ethics, and AI. So, we'll talk about what does it even mean for an AI, a machine that we think of as a machine to be biased in the first place, and then what might be some examples of where we've seen AI bias in education. So these are the main areas that I'm hoping to touch on and just dabble in today.
Looking forward to it. When you talk about the bias, for example, we over here at GCU in our cybersecurity program, we call ourselves the hackers with halos. So I bring that up only because there's this ethics piece about cybersecurity that I think we all need to be cognizant of, and that may look different in different areas, but ultimately we all have to be a part of the solution as we develop AI. And I like to say we because even though I might not be an AI developer, my voice needs to be heard. Our voices need to be heard, like as a collective. I hope that's where you're gonna go.
Really, really.
So
Oh, yes. No, really well said, because that's exactly where I was going to say that part of this is that we are not only are we consumers, but we are influencers of AI. And you said this well, and hence we don't have to be coding in it. Just as in cybersecurity, there are so many people that touch upon it, that influence its path and our software, our interactions with the devices around us in the world. Same way, same thing here, we have an influence on this AI as well. So really well said.
well, thank you. So what AI do we see in our daily lives and what does it look like in school?
Good question. So I took a little set of pictures here, and let's start from the left. Like, what these might be things that we might recognize, or some of you out there might recognize in your daily lives. For example, if you've ever been driving around here in Arizona, you might see the self-driving cars, Waymo, the self-driving cars. Those use artificial intelligence to be able to drive. Now, till date, I have never seen it truly be driverless. It does usually have somebody in the passenger seat. So, but that's the route we're going. That uses artificial intelligence and a number of sensors. Now, if you're a Disney fan, you might have seen Wally, who's kind of next to the Waymo car. And that is an example of this futuristic version of how we might envision an AI to be, this like sentient little robot that, is doing good by cleaning up the planet and, meets another robot and falls in love. And so maybe a bit of a stretch from what we think of AI, what AI can really do today. but
But there's so
right.
many questions about that, right? Like robot human relationships. So I'm glad that you just touched on that a bit.
And that leads really well into a real robot that does have relationships. So Moxie, that little like teal robot that you see with the little eyes, that's exactly how Moxie looks. If you Google Moxie by a company called Embodied, that is a real robot. And Corey, you and I, when we were at ISTE, I saw this robot sitting there on a platform, and it kind of follows you. It's very adorable, and it's being used for social emotional learning for children. And so it's found applications even that, from when I spoke to them, they didn't even think of was going to go that direction. So now they're finding a place in schooling systems for SEL kind of learning. So that's an interesting one where this robot interacts with kids and it's an AI. And then we have a lot of them that we see, I think Siri, Google. If you pick up your phone, it has a voice assistant. I'm afraid to say any of the names because I feel like my devices will pop off in a second because they're all
Yeah.
around me.
That's why I mute sometimes so that yeah, my Siri or my Alexa doesn't go off. I love it.
Yeah. And before we got on this, those are the things I did. I muted my AI assistants. I've got Siri and Alexa in my house. And then all of anybody who's watching any kind of content, many of us might be using Disney, Netflix, Prime, Hulu, and you name it. That little tree above has like all the different apps and stuff. Almost all of them use artificial intelligence to kind of figure out stuff about us. So when Netflix is suggesting the next movie to watch, it's probably scouring a set of information and patterns that I have interacted with, ranging from how long I spent on something to it starts comparing it to other people doing the same stuff on the net, and then using that information as it grows and learns, it figures out maybe Rachna will want to watch so and so thing, and you know, like that.
And I love it how you say as it grows and learns. So you have Moxie, this interactive AI that, can help with social emotional learning. I think some teachers get a little afraid of what AI can do, but in this case, AI can be friendly as long as we collectively um, create it to be friendly. Is that kind of the way I could look at that,
Yeah,
Rachna?
absolutely. And when I talk about the bias part too, and later on, that's exactly what I said is that we need diverse thinkers. That means all of us have to be involved. And when we miss certain groups or certain people or certain thinkers, that's how those are the situations that lead to bias, and that comes with our daily lives. So I did pick three really specific examples of AI in our schools, and on the left, you see Duolingo is an example that we use at Conworld School to teach some of the languages. My own kid is taking Spanish with Duolingo, and that is an AI based system that, as she makes mistakes or gets better at it, it doesn't punish you for the mistake. It helps you figure out how much repetition you need without making it boring. And it
I love
just figures
that. As a Spanish teacher, I remember learning and the punitive damage that it does. Like if you learn a language and someone is punitive with you, it's like that word, you have a hang up on it emotionally. And so that's so neat that Duolingo is helpful and says, just repeat this, practice more instead of, no, you didn't do that right. So that's really pretty cool.
exactly, and well said. And similarly, like the second one, All Here, this company does an AI chatbot. Now, this AI chatbot helps students with enrollment. It could help when, so in higher ed, you'll see this actually more like with enrollment, with financial aid, or this, asking stuff about how to go about with college or any of these processes. So it can help with that, and it has other applications as well. And the last one, which is interesting, I know the CEO for this, Laura, Van Robotics. So they created this robot really as an assistant, and that's what's interesting. This is an example. I'm wary with ed tech companies in general that look at these solutions as a replacement. That's really not what it is. This is an assistant robot, and so an example is for repetitive kind of tasks. For example, like the teacher has taught the lesson on whatever the mathematics component is. Now, as a part of their rotation, they go to Abby. This robot's name is Abby, and finish off their lessons, which are, the main course part has been taught. Now they can kind of continue. Now it's an AI because it actually adapts to the learning, just like Duolingo does with the student. It actually checks also if the student isn't looking at the screen, they know they've lost attention, so it gently guides them back in a friendly way. So
Wow, that is incredible for K-12 teachers, and I see a lot of application in special education
yes.
for AI. And I just wanted to make a comment on the All Here chatbot. We had a STEM competition in our technology areas in our 500 level courses just to create a chatbot. It's so complicated to do it, but again, it's that ethics behind it. Like, how do you ask the
Mhm.
question so that students feel like they're getting their needs answered? And it's fascinatingly challenging, but I see a lot of really wonderful potential. And so I want to ask you, how can AI be creative? And what does that really mean for education, Rachna?
Yeah, so it's funny to say, can AI be creative? And what I want to talk about is these two pictures that you see here are ones that I created with the AI. So I look at it as a human AI collaboration. So this diffusionb.com, I downloaded their application on my Mac, which it doesn't run on everything. I did have to have the latest Mac. It's a pretty hefty program. I had to shut everything down on my MacBook, which is like fairly new, but I couldn't run anything else with it. So it's intensive, like kind of computation going on. And I said to it in text, I said, uh, I wanted it to give me a drawing of a robot reading a book in a children's drawing format. That's all I said, you know? And now it has basically crunched data from like, it's probably got trillions of pieces of information that it has scoured and create and learned off the internet to figure out what children's drawing robots. So this is a unique image it generated. And so I
That's
will use,
fascinating.
same with the second one, using a different website. So what I want to ask you, like, what do you think? Is it creative? And
Well, yeah, are you talking to me or are you talking about our audience? Like, how does it,
both you
how
and
are,
yeah, like what do you do now when you have it writing poems and writing narratives, which it can do? What does that? So my question is, and you can go to the next one. That's where I'm wondering. Well, when you've got AI that can write stories, that can write poems that you can't tell apart from humans, what happens to your assignments in the classroom? How do I grade them? Do I allow for AI based solutions? And I don't have answers for this. This is my question to you, Corey, and to our audience.
I love it. And it's a great question. And I wish I had the answer. I think I would say let's continue to make sure that we have an open mind about AI and creativity, right? I know that I can't do what that computer can do for all of my students. And that's why we talk about class size, right? Having that smaller class size. Well, AI
Exactly.
can actually create a smaller class size. If you have, for example, what you just showed us, the the lexica art, for example. I mean, if I've got some students over there, it buys me some time over here with other students. So that's how I'm thinking of it right now. But
I
I
love
don't
that.
know.
Uh,
We'd
yeah,
love to hear some more ideas from our K-12 audience for sure.
yes,
It's
I'd love
amazing.
to do that.
Well, moving along, how about bias? I know this is a challenging topic, especially for AI creators, but let's just talk about how can it be biased and then what are some examples of that bias in education?
So I'm going to give like a really kind of, this is very simplistic and not all encompassing, but one way of looking at how can a machine, an AI, be biased? Well, as the creators of the AI, humans are, or people can be biased or unfair. And then we look at, well, we are the ones that are designing these robots, these AI. And I make the distinction of AI robots because an AI could be a robot like that cute one like Moxie, or it could be just something in your system like your Google search. That's not a cute fuzzy robot. That's a search engine that's got some AI behind it. So we design these things. And therefore, when you get to this last one, AI robots can sometimes become biased as we affect the data that it's learning, or it has a limited data set that it learns from, or maybe not all encompassing data set. And so AI can be biased, not always, but that is exactly going back to your point, Corey, about how we have to be a part of it. We need diverse thinkers because both to be, you could be the ones that are coding, you could be the one that's influencing you could be the one that calls something out and actually changes. And I'll give you one example of where this was called out. And we can, if you want, I can talk about it in education. If you have any questions on this, well, I can give you an example of where thinkers like us who are not necessarily coding called it out and changed a path. If
Wow,
you,
that's
yeah,
intense. Like, I really think that's important for our audience to hear because knowing that we all have an obligation to be a part of the solution is, I think, where you're going here.
absolutely. And you talked about, did you say that Halo? What did you call your
Hackers with halos, we call
hackers with
ourselves.
halos? You need one for AI. I'm waiting for you to come up with a name. I think the hackers for halos are the same ones that'll be looking at this and addressing these kind of problems. So, and I'll give you some two examples. So during this pandemic, it was about in the post 2020 is when we all our schools shut down. So after that point, as in the UK, they were trying to figure out how do we, assess the students on their A level exams. And so they used an AI based predictive grading system that used previous data, previous knowledge. And what ended up happening was in the UK, it favored private school students. So you saw a drop in the evaluations and the grading that was actually not even a real grade. It was deciphered from like an AI across the board for those that were that were not in private schools. So that
That's
caused an uproar.
fascinating. Just
Yeah,
based on
yeah,
the AI, huh? That's fascinating.
just based on the AI. So there was an uproar. The teachers pushed back, the students pushed back, families pushed back, and that caused for the rollback. And this is where we come in as the kind of citizens in the situation where we're saying we have this influence on these kind of models and the AI itself to say, hey, this is not, this is not encompassing. This is not looking at everyone. This is not looking at unbiased data.
So Rachna, I'm really interested in knowing a little bit how, how do we do that? I mean, I think we can say, hey, we need to be a part of the solution, but how do we? And I know that you've got a few tools for us with AI in the classroom, and I want to get to that very soon here. But as far as bias is concerned, when we see that bias, how do we call that out?
So in this case, it depends where it's happening, but when in the many situations of companies or schools, it came down to calling out the people that actually created this. So in this case, it was a district that decided we're going to use this AI. Well, you call them up and say, this doesn't make sense. And as you dig in further, you find out it was actually an
Oh,
AI that made this decision.
wow.
Timnit Gebru at Google, she wrote a research paper and was fired for writing it became a huge ordeal because she was one of their top AI researchers at Google. She was fired because she called out this bias in search results and bias in these kind of issues that they have. And so she stood up against it, but she was fired. So sometimes it is taking a stand, and there
Wow.
could be some repercussions. But
But
if we
but
don't,
we stand up for what's right.
we stand up
Yeah.
for what's right. And then many people kind of sided with her, and the same with many others who have stood up against it. So, well, going back to just kind of
Thank you.
concluding, we talked about this is a lot of stuff that happened here. I really will highly encourage those that are watching to, you know, if you literally Google bias in AI, ethics in AI, or creativity, you tick these words and Google them, which of course it's also the Google search results are kind of using an AI to figure this out.
Could they be skewed?
Um, it will be skewed. There is it's kind of a circular kind of problem, but I highly encourage you to take a look at this because it will end up in our classrooms and we will see these in our daily lives.
And I appreciate that. In the show notes, we'll have some information for you all to dig a little bit deeper. So, what are some tools that I can use in my classroom? Some AI tools to help my students understand it a little bit better.
So I've got two examples that I love that I personally like to use too. And I say to code or not to code. So if you're
I love it.
interested in the coding aspect of AI, this is a great example is going to code.org/AI, and it's appropriate for middle and high school students. It literally walks you baby steps through
Oh, I
everything.
love it.
Whether you're
How
a
it
teacher,
works. I love it. There you go.
and there you go, AI and ethics. So
Uh,
right on the front page. I love this site. There is an actual tutorial for teachers too
this is
that takes you through.
fantastic. What a great site. And then you have something for elementary as well. What's this one all about?
Yeah, I love this one as well. AI for Anyone, started by, I think, you can see Mark Cuban Foundations on
Ah,
here as well in the center. He really is like a big proponent of AI education. So this is, I think there were two students that started this, and it's an all free resources where you can go step by step. It has curriculum and content that you can take into the classroom. This is a no coding kind of learning. So
and look, there it
AI,
is again, bias and AI. Okay.
yeah. So this is more of an awareness and overall kind of high level learning of AI for anyone. So these are
Oh
two
my
great
gosh.
sites to start with.
Thank you. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, Rachna. I know for a fact that I got a lot out of today, and I certainly took away a lot, especially those last two tools. And interestingly, both of them from the front page had that bias and AI. So it's clearly something that we need to talk about. Thank you for bringing it up here with us. Thank you for being a part of the Arizona STEM Acceleration Program. I know that you are going to bring STEMology into so many schools as a result of the fellowship. But beyond that, folks, Rachna, I can get in touch with Rachna anytime to bring her services into your school. So don't forget that she is here as a great resource for you and your classroom. Remember that our why is to empower, educate, and inspire our community so they take action to fulfill their purpose and to serve one another. Don't forget that canyonpd.com has all kinds of resources for you on demand, low cost PD, including the STEM PD for the STEM Acceleration Project, which is a really big reason why we wanted to bring Rachna on today. We want to celebrate that Arizona's got this STEM Acceleration Project going on and allowing our teachers to get the kind of PD that they need. Both Rachna and I are studying STEM education at the doctoral level, and it is fascinating the research. We love to talk to each other about this, and I can't wait to even hear more about AI. Don't forget, we have a couple of resources for you folks. GCU Live lessons. This will be in the show notes, as well as our GCU Cyber Teachers Camp. So Gen Cyber Teachers Camp and Gen Cyber Student Camp. You'll learn about cybersecurity to keep you and your students safe on their computers.
I, as final parting words, I think that it is the future and we will see it whether we like it or not. And so being aware about it, at least, is a great place to start. And I really hope that anybody, you're welcome to reach out to me. My information will be there, but it's Rachna at STEMology.Club. And I would love to hear from you if you've got thoughts or just want to talk about this stuff. And thanks, Corey, so much for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here, Rachna. Your expertise is very much appreciated from all of us here at Canyon Professional Development. Keep being a part of that solution, that AI solution, and we will meet each other again next month for our Wednesday webinar.